Hi, I'm Dr. Eileen O'Connor, and I'm here to tell you about my journey into immersive virtual reality. It began more than a decade ago when I was working for RPI in engineering school and seeing the students in the colleges in the late 1990s as avid gamers. There was no way right then that you could have brought this into education environments. But when I went over to Empire State College, and pretty soon I was introduced to Second Life, where we were able to start bringing students into these environments. However, Second Life got to be a little too expensive, and over time we moved over into the actual open source environments. So looking back at our history, in about the mid-2000s, there were artists available and enough funding available to use Second Life, and a wonderful facsimile was made of our alumni house. Courses were run there by some of the undergraduate program, and we used it for a number of areas, such as meetings with students, having students come interact, and we had poster sessions and speakers. But again, it became too expensive to maintain the Second Life islands, and other islands became available. And islands are how you kind of refer to the virtual spaces. So here is a situation where you see some students and the instructor actually having a poster session. We often had students reporting on their projects. Now, we began an emerging technology master's around 2012, and in that program itself, we started teaching students how to create their own virtual reality environments. Now, we were using open source environments, which essentially are free, but you still need a server. And so students were able to take islands that existed that were being made available by artists and use these, enhancing them with their own creations, and were able to develop islands for their own needs. This is an example of what a student did who was a social worker. He was creating islands to bring social workers together so they didn't have to travel in for professional development. And he worked a lot with dysfunctional families that had been separated by courts. And he wanted to have something that was fun for the students and for the families to get involved in. And he had many different activities on his island, but it came out of research done in England, and he found some buildings that he thought reminded him of the original settings of the research, and kind of customize his island around that direction. Now, other students went in different directions. Here was a student who actually teaches videography, a very fancy videography with the cameras and the settings. He took islands, developed some of his own work, repurposed them, and used it as a simulation. He got some programming skills and developed activities within it that could actually change lighting, and so he went beyond simply meetings. He actually developed simulations that he could teach others in this space. Now, not everybody wanted pre-made islands. I found this one very interesting, and if you get this slide, you can have the link. This was one of our artist students, and he created something totally original. To the right there, you'll see the visuals that he created within his space. So you don't have to just use pre-developed buildings, but he went and created his own. And the image to the left is actually an aerial view of his island. He was very totally original. But since we started these movements, it became important that the students themselves could report their work. And we began going to community conferences. This one, Open Simulator, was created, and it brought in a number of our students. Here is an exhibit that we filled out and showed to everybody. But we also had to create a research base for, were these islands productive? And this is just an example of one of the many publications that came out where we were looking at, if you just use these as meeting spaces in 100% online courses, as we have, did it create more community? And we did find that students really started to know each other beyond just a discussion board. Now, we took the concept further. and began what we called an immersive virtual reality residency. And we brought people together who couldn't necessarily afford to travel and stay at a hotel. And now we have other reasons for travel restrictions. So we brought them together, and they came in, met with faculty, met with the dean, met with speakers, and really had a very immersive experience where they were not simply sitting in a discussion board or a Zoom session. They got to meet one another. What's developed over time is our Institute of New Paradigms, where we've taken students who are particularly proactive, got them together, and met with other people. We get together once a month and develop new approaches coming out from all the technologies. And we now actually team our students together. This was an interesting group where we started where they were just playing with building. This was not a class on building, but we then created a team out of the work they could do. So we start with many of these pre-designed islands. Here are some lovely things that we use and repurpose, and we bring in STEM projects. We had, interestingly, an island that looked like the bubonic plague, which came in very timely. And where else but in virtual reality could you actually meet and have a selfie with somebody from the past? The research has strongly supported the community that we can develop. Lots of documentation is available. We have found that it's a great way to have people get together, but you need, people to give time and attention to this. So we need also acceptance from the academic community. So I'm looking forward to having people come and visit our spaces and join us with some of our activities. Thank you.